The Mushroom Boy is one of Terraria's newest minions. However, many have considered it to be weak for its stage of the game, despite it getting buffed in one of the post-launch patches. So today we'll determine whether the Mushroom Staff is balanced, or if it needs even more changes. Although first, I would like to point out how simple it is to obtain this minion, compared to some others. The Mushroom Staff is crafted from 300 mushrooms, 5 mushroom grass seeds, and 5 shadow scales or tissue samples at an anvil. The mushrooms and grass seeds can be easily obtained by taking out all the mushrooms in an underground mushroom biome. And if you don't get enough mushroom grass seeds, you can build a house for the dryad in the mushroom biome, and then buy them from her once she moves in. Meanwhile, the scales or samples are obtained from fighting your world's respective evil boss. And remember that you don't have to defeat said boss if you want to use this. Just kill enough segments of creepers until you have enough. Compare this to obtaining the Vampire Frog Staff, which requires you to get a blood moon to occur in some way, have some fishing gear on hand, and then also have the staff drop from the fished up enemies. And unlike the Imp Staff, the Mushroom Staff doesn't immediately require a mining trip to the underworld, making it technically earlier in progression. Although, you'd want to go down there for a Hellforge anyways. However, there is a minion that the Mushroom Staff is often compared to, that being the Flinx Staff, which can be obtained earlier in the game, and at first glance, appears to have very similar stats. But what about their functionality? How do they work? Of course, you can summon Mushroom Boys like any other minion, by using the staff. At first glance, their Pirate Staff-esque AI may be worrying at first, but the Flinx or Vampire Frog shares similar AI anyways, and more accurate movement isn't particularly needed in Pre-Hardmode. To make up for it, Mushroom Boys are quite skilled at using platforms, so building a proper arena will benefit them greatly, as they will be able to reach mid-air targets easier. In comparison, Vampire Frogs require the enemy to be a bit higher above a platform for them to use them. But the Flinxes are also good jumpers, and can continuously jump on enemies once they reach them, allowing them to hit considerably more often. Although, the Mushroom Boys have another trick, which is their ability to dash towards targeted enemies if they're too far away, dealing additional damage upon hit. Although sometimes they can overcompensate and go flying. This doesn't usually happen in practice. However, there's one major thing we still need to talk about: immunity frames, or iframes for short. These exist to ensure that piercer weapons don't hit every single frame they are in contact with an enemy. This includes minions, where there are two main types of immunity frames to consider: static and local. Static immunity frames will block any minion of the same type. Quite a few minions in Pre-Hardmode use these, including Vampire Frogs, Flinxes, and Imps. It takes more than one of these minions to reach the maximum amount of hits per second, so using a few of these can still be good to some extent. On the other hand, local immunity frames will only block the specific minion that dealt the attack. Examples of minions that use these are the Hornet, the Finch, and our Mushroom Boy. This means that for these minions, your damage will scale linearly based on your minion slots, so you never have to worry about losing out on damage. In this video, we'll be performing a lot of tests against Steerclops, who is a mostly idle, large hitbox, which allows us to see the difference in damage more clearly. With 2 minion slots, using Flinxes or Vampire Frogs will outperform the Shrooms to a considerable degree. However, with 3 or more minion slots, the Mushroom Boys will start outperforming both of them, as the Flinx Staff reaches its maximum hit potential of only 2 minion slots, and the Frogs face a similar stagnant growth. So does that mean Mushroom Boys are just completely better than long term? Well, not exactly, as there's one thing we haven't considered yet: the ability to mix your minions. This is where you summon certain amounts of different minions for optimal damage based on our current minion slot count. We do this to make the most out of minions with static iframes, as they typically have higher damage with lower amounts of them. For example, with 2 minion slots, it is optimal to summon 1 frog and either 1 Flinx or 1 Foxsparks for maximum damage potential. Their iframes are independent of one another now, allowing both of them to deal their maximum damage without overlapping. With 3 or more minion slots, things become more complicated. So I'll try and simplify things down. Generally, it is good to start by introducing 1 frog and 1 Flinx. These are 2 of the best singular minions Pre-Hardmode has to offer. Your next choice will depend on what whip you're using. If you're using the Spinal Tap, you can fill out your remaining slots with Mushroom Boys for the best damage. This is because the tag damage from Spinal is so high that the Mushroom Boys will outperform most other minions at this point anyways. However, if you're using the Star Crash, you'll want to first prioritize getting Foxsparks in, and then an Imp. This is because their higher damage hits greatly benefit the Star Crash. If you still have extra slots, you can then introduce Mushroom Boys, or perhaps a second Frog or Imp. It may also be beneficial to replace the Flinx with an Imp instead for a fight like Queen Bee. Now if you're using the Snap Thorn, you can do either of the previous strategies. Although a Mushroom Boy will generally be better than an Imp in most cases, due to them benefiting more from Summon Tag. So let's take everything we've learned and compare these minions against bosses. Starting with Queen Bee, the Mushroom Boys put up a decent effort on their own, although imps are slightly better here, as while the Mushroom Boys can deal more peak damage, the imps are more consistent during the whole fight. This is mainly due to Queen Bee's higher defense later in the fight, which can cripple the shrooms, Flinxes, and most other minions. Now when introducing minion mixing into this, it's unsurprisingly quite effective, especially when making use of Fox Sparks, which is really good for this fight. It's important to note that Queen Bee is Mushroom Staff's weakest performance, as once we move on to Deerclops, results look much better for it now. You may be wondering why we're using the Star Crash Whip for every test over the Snapthorn, and I did test both, but it seems like the amount of meteors somehow outperforms the increase in tag. Continuing with Deerclops, if you go from 3 to 4 minion slots via the Pygmy Necklace, the Mushroom Staff on its own now outclasses most other minions, although the Horned Staff proves quite effective against a mostly still target. In terms of minion mixing, the Shroom, Frog, and Fox Sparks mix comes out on top. Mushroom Staff's performance also improves drastically when introducing post-Skeletron gear like the Spinal Tap and Witching Table into the mix. At this point in the game, Star Crash is not worth using as Spinal Tap's tag and damage is just so strong. Unless you're using a high minion count Abigail's Flower, which works better with Star Crash due to their higher contact damage for the stage, although they're still outclassed by Mushroom Staff anyways. Now let's move on to Skeletron. Here the Mushroom Boys about neck and neck with the Imp Staff. Both are very good here, although the Imps do have a decent amount of variance as in some attempts they overlap their shots more than others. Remember that making use of a platform arena is especially important when using the Mushroom Boys, as without one, the Imps gain a major advantage. Lastly, we'll talk about the Wall Flush fight. Assuming you make a decent enough arena with a ground and perhaps a platform, Mushroom Boys are your strongest single minion type here. Although, the Finch Staff still performs quite well in this very specific scenario, despite the loss of whip stacking. If minion mixing, your best bet is to use 2 frogs and the rest Mushroom Boys, although you can also include a Flinx as well. However, one slight problem with all 3 of these minions is that there is a chance they may struggle to catch up at the very end of the fight, but remember, you can just whip the wall to death in that case. Now in order to test out general uses, I did a short playthrough solely to mess around with the Mushroom Staff and other minions. They do share issues with other grounded minions in this stage, but the dash attack sometimes comes in use in regular combat, and the Mushroom Boys can be pretty effective against crowds, such as against the Old One's army, where even though imps can attack more enemies at once, the Mushroom Boys could clear them out just fine, and deal more damage to the mini-boss. The Mushroom Boys do have some odd properties though. In some cases, they will instantly teleport back to the player after going too far away, but in other cases, they will secretly stalk their enemies from behind without actually catching up to them. Nothing that using a whip can't fix though. Either way, the Mushroom Staff work great for all of the bosses I ended up fighting, just like in the weapon tests. They even seemed alright to use with the Firecracker in hard mode, although at that point you should just get Abigail, which is much better in this scenario. So, is the Mushroom Staff balanced? I'd say so. It definitely is quite a strong minion in the right scenario, although other minions such as imps still have their own advantages too. And at the end of the day, minion mixing reigns supreme. Guess all minions can win in the end, except for Slime Staff. We don't care about that guy. That's all I have to say though. This video ended up taking quite a while to make. Over 1,000 bosses were killed in the making of this video, and you can look at all the different attempt times and loadouts used via the spreadsheet in the description. If you thought this video was interesting, you might like this video where I determined whether the newly added Barnacle Staff is worth using. You can also choose to subscribe for more content like this, or for other stuff I have posted. A big thank you to my channel members for sticking around, and thank you for watching.